There's the old saying, there's a trash can for every lid, right? So the numbers are on your side. You keep playing the numbers, you're going to find somebody.
I just heard in Atlanta, it's 20 women to 1 man.
I've
so
heard
if you want to
these.
increase your odds,
hey, listen,
you
play the
increase
odds.
your odds.
But I mean, in general, and of course we're just talking about hetero relationships here. Women outnumber men, right? I can't speak on the dating in the LGBT community because not my community. I can guess. I have plenty of gay friends. I hang out in the neighborhood a lot. I'm not going to spoil something because there's a surprise, but actually she doesn't watch these things, so it doesn't matter.
You never know.
I know, right?
She might.
But point is that I can pretty much guess, and I can sort of line out how gay guys do the dating, and it's pretty straightforward. Like if you want ease in dating, date guys. That is easy.
They don't have that facade, that whole thing that the...
Yeah, we know why we're there.
Right.
But, and let me come back to that in a second. I like where we went with this.
Well, it increases your chance of hooking up by 50%, if you go into a gay.
Well, here's the thing. Friend of mine is bisexual, right? And he was like, it's night and day between men and women in dating. And I've had, actually, another friend of mine, she is bisexual as well. And she's dated men and women, both sides. We were, I guess we're Eskimo siblings somehow. That's a whole nother thing. If you know, you know. If you don't, sorry, Grandma. Anyway, but the what I understand is in when you're dating someone of the same gender, it's a lot easier. My friend who was a guy but bisexual said, when I'm trying to hook up with a guy versus trying to hook up with a girl, with a woman, is there's a lot of pageantry and a lot of hoops you got to jump through. There's a courting process with a woman, whereas when he goes on a date with a guy, it's like, how fast can I get your clothes off?
Well, they're both looking for two different things. The gay people are looking for the action right away. The woman is looking for a friend, is looking for a wine and dine.
That could be.
There's two different, it's the same end result, but there's two different ways of going about it.
That's what I think a lot of the time, and I mean, everybody's experience is different. But one, we put too much emphasis on sex to begin with. Again, we treat it like this is super. Now there are serious consequences to it and all that kind of thing. Children, STDs, these kinds of things. But the act itself is something as natural as breathing. Something as natural as breathing. And unfortunately, due to religion, let's just put it out there, there's a lot of shame that has been hoisted on sexuality and just being a sexual being. You think of how we treat children. We're fine with them, figuring out their gender and all when they're little, and then around 5 years old, we just shut it down. They're not allowed to be sexual beings anymore until they hit adolescence, and even then, we kind of put the governor on them until they reach 15, 16 years old, which I feel is a dumb way to go about it, because we're human beings. We are biological entities, and the second instinct of any biological entity is to reproduce. So, avoiding sexuality is a problem. And it's because we make it out to be this serious, sacred thing. And it's not. Listen, if you are a promiscuous person, listen, be safe, right? Have fun out there. I hope you have all the best sex in the world and you meet all the best people in the world. Those numbers aren't on your side, but whatever, it's fine. Not a big deal. And if you take it from the standpoint of the game, and all we have to do is if you lose this game, we play the game again, and maybe you win the next game. If you play from that scenario, and you understand that there's literally, you cannot sleep with, if you somehow could sleep with everybody, a different person every second, it would take you 31 years to get through 1 billion people. You'd still have 7 or 6 billion people left.
And what is the population of the world? Give me that number.
7.2 or something like that. It's billion people.
Billion. Every single person is different.
Every single person's different.
We're
and yet
all
we're all the
different.
same.
We are all the same, but
we're all the same.
we're all different too. And that's a pretty heavy thought.
I agree.
Everyone is different.
It's, if you think of it as every time you part the mane, you part it just a little bit differently. And every time you part it, you give birth to a different parting of the mane.
Okay.
Right? It feels the same. It looks the same to the
right.
outer eye. But
it's
always different. It's always a little different.
Little different.
And that's humanity.
That is humanity.
In a
We're all different.
We're all parting the mane. We're all the same. But every time, it's just a little different.
But a lot of times, there's a vast difference between him and her, or her and him and him. There's a big difference.
Well, I think those differences...
Then again, there's not a lot. It's a minute difference.
I think a lot of that is myth, and on both sides, because I think we as genders, again, playing this game incredibly seriously. It's not a serious game. Go out, have fun. I've seen families die over Monopoly, right? Like whole families just break apart because of Monopoly or Monopoly, or at least it seemed like it was going to go that way. And while you're playing the game, play it with all your heart, but understand that when it's over, pieces go back in the box, right? Even if you won this round, it doesn't make you champion for life, right? So when you go to woo fair lady or whoever it is your desire, you cannot go in thinking, oh, this is an all or nothing game, because it's not.
I thought that all ended after the summer of love. People changed. I mean, it was like that then.
You think.
And from what I understand, society is different. It wasn't that hard to hook up back then.
So it's easier now than ever to hook up. But it has been my experience in talking with people that they don't do it all that much. Like hookup culture is definitely a thing, but it's still like a sect of the population.
Right, it's a certain sect that continually does it, and most don't because it's dangerous.
Yeah, there was some study that was done that said like millennials have had far less sexual partners than their ex and boomer predecessors. The idea that we were all virtuous at some point is a bunch of bollocks.
The Victorian era, they
just had to break through more buttons.
Right.
They were still getting it on night and day, right? Because that's who we are. If you look at, I love, talking about ancient Rome and sort of the classical age, because if you get to a point prior to Christianity being this major force in politics and history, it's like walking into a different world. The rules are much different. I'm not saying they're better, but they're different.
It was created to stop us from running amok like we were. I think they brought that in to calm us down a little bit.
Maybe.
Well, I thought that was the reason.
That was the reason that was given, just like we went into Iraq for weapons of mass destruction. Like just the reason given isn't necessarily the reason it's there.
Well, a little opiate for the soul. You needed to calm us down, because otherwise we were running amok and procreating all over the place. So now make it a little...
Listen, they have to make sex difficult to get. Otherwise, nothing will get built. Right? Because if you don't, right? Like if women were as liberated that's one thing that has to get done, has to happen for real gender equality to happen. He can't be a hero, she can't be a whore. That can't be a thing, right? You're just people out doing people stuff, right? That's it. And as long as there's that double standard, like if you go out this weekend and you get the weekend pass and you sleep with 8 different people, you're a god amongst your peers.
Hugh Hefner.
Right, but if you're a woman and you do the same thing, you're a whore. What's going on? And because of that, that double standard, you have to get around that as well. But you have to go into the game knowing that is a part of it, right? That you have to circumnavigate societal pressure, cultural pressure, all that kind of thing. I think if you're in the middle of Saudi Arabia, don't think you're going to get a one-night stand. Like, that's just not going to happen. There's too many layers to get around. But if you're in a Western country, to include the United States, I think we're still Western, right? The way we're acting these days. There is still that Judeo-Christian sort of Protestant ethos thing that you have to get around. And part of that, part of the way of getting around it is actually just treating people like equals. She's not an alien, right? She's a human being, just like you. She has the same desires as you do. She very may well want to have sex as much as you do. But if you go in thinking women don't want to have sex as much as men, and everybody's, women are prude and this, that, you go in with that, you're never getting anything. That's why the bad guy always ends up with the girl, because it's not that women like, a-holes. It's that, believe it or not, jerks tend to, a respectable jerk, an honorable jerk, a guy that is just open, right? Which could be seen as jerkish. But if I treat everybody the same, and I treat everybody within the realm that they want to be treated, you can do that, right? Well, then you're not treating that person any differently. Again, working the room, you're not treating that person any differently than you were with anybody in the room. Thank you for joining us for that clip of our weekly podcast. If you want to get more bonage footage or join us for the entire podcast, head on over to Patreon, where our Eagle, Tiger, and Dragon subscribers get access to not only what we cast and talk about, but advanced lessons in your forms, in your Tai Chi, and in your life.